Hello guys, this is Dr. Miles from Demetri Tutors. In this video, we're going to talk about cell structures and functions. Alright, let's start with cell theory. Cell is the basic functional unit of life, and the cell theory was formulated in the year 1839, and it includes three basic principles. The first one is this: all living organisms are made up of one or more cells, and the smallest living unit of structure and function of all organisms is the cell. And again, all cells arise from pre-existing cells. These basic principles of cell theories is a collective work of some scientists like Theodor Swan, Matthias Kledding, and Udo Virchow. And also, the first man to feel cell is Hubert Hooke. He discovered cell from cork of oak tree, and he called them animalcules. Now, there are two kinds of cells that exist. We have a prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell. Eukaryotic cells are found in eukaryotic organisms, and a prokaryotic cells are found in prokaryotic organisms. Now, let's talk about prokaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells are very common among bacteria and blue-green algae. And since they lack membrane-bound organelle like nucleus, mitochondria, chloroplast, Golgi apparatus, etc. So those organisms like bacteria and blue-green algae, they lack those organelles. We call them membrane-bound organelles. That is the reason why they are called prokaryotes. Prokaryotic cells. Alright, this is a typical bacterial cells, and let's talk about some of the features of this prokaryotic cell structure. Let's start with the capsule. The function of the capsule is for protection from being ingested by white blood cells whenever bacterial cells invade human being. So the white blood cell will like to phagocytosize the bacterial cell. So this capsule serves as protection for bacteria. Then let's talk about the pili. Pili for attachment to the surface of the host. Ribosome is for protein synthesis. And now let's talk about cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is like the fluid inside every cell, and that's where all other organelles are suspended. Nucleotides are the building block of DNAs and also RNA also. And again, they are made up of sugars like pentose sugars that are attached to a phosphate group and a nitrogenous base, which can be a purine or a pyrimidine. Now, the flagella. Flagellum in bacteria or in prokaryotic organisms or anywhere else is for locomotion, for movement. Now, the plasmid. Plasmids are special type of DNA. They are said to be extra chromosomal DNAs. They are circular in nature, and they are found in some cells. Also, they are found in eukaryotic cells as well. Now, the plasma membranes, they are also called cell membranes or plasmalemma. Their function is that they allow the cell to exchange material with the environment because they are permeable. And again, they serve the function of cell-to-cell recognition. We are going to talk about this later, but the meaning is that whenever sometimes some cells can be separated in their tissues, they can be separated maybe mechanically or by treating them with enzymes, so they can be separated. And when they're separated and they dissolve them inside a medium, those cells that have similar origins, so they set to assemble to form a gang, like they assemble themselves based on their origins themselves. So that's what they call cell-to-cell recognitions. So the part of a cell to do that is because of the cell membrane. So that's about that one. And now, lastly, the cell wall. So cell wall of a prokaryotic cells is made up of what we call peptidoglycan. So here are the features of prokaryotic cells. So the cell is a whole organism, but may exist in colony. So another thing is this: they have no membrane-bound organelles like mitochondria and Golgi apparatus, no nucleus as well. And again, their DNA molecules is found floating in cytoplasm since they don't have nucleus, and normally DNA should be found inside nucleus, but they don't have nucleus, and therefore it means that their DNA must be suspended in their cytoplasms. And as well, their DNA is naked. Yes, it is naked since it is not found inside the nucleus as well. So, and again, there's a protein called histone protein. Histone protein usually find attached to DNAs, and for prokaryotic organisms, their histone protein is not there. So we said they are histone protein free. So they have flagellum, and as well they also have chlorophyll, but chlorophyll is not in. Chlorophyll is basically for blue green algae. Bacteria don't have chlorophyll, but blue green algae has chlorophyll. But their chlorophyll is not in chloroplast because chloroplast is a membrane-bound organelle. So, and they don't have chloroplast, but they have chlorophyll. So therefore, their chlorophyll is found inside their cytoplasm as well. So then their protein synthesis stages are coupled. Here is it. There are two steps for protein synthesis. We have transcription and translation. Transcription takes place inside the nucleus, and translation takes place in the cytoplasm. But for prokaryotic cells, they don't have nucleus. So therefore, this makes their transcription and translation stages to take place together inside the cytoplasm. So we say that their protein synthesis stages are coupled. Alright, draw this structure in your notes and try to identify each of the organelles. Try to identify them and write their name there. Now, the eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells differ from prokaryotic cells in the sense that they possess membrane-bound organelles. Then again, they have nucleus. So inside the nucleus, that's where their DNA is found. And again, their genetic material is organized into chromosomes, and the chromosomes have some protein attached to them, like histone protein. Unlike prokaryotes that lacks histone protein, eukaryotic cells, they have histone proteins. Another thing is that the stage of protein synthesis, transcriptions and translations take place separately. Unlike eukaryotic cells, that their transcriptions take place together with translations. For eukaryotic cells, their translation take place in the cytoplasm, and transcription take place inside their nucleus, since they have nucleus. So, and this is very common among higher plants and animals, and these organisms are made up of various cells arranged in different cellular organizations. As we have said, that examples of prokaryotic cells are bacteria and blue-green algae, and also that eukaryotic cells are found in higher plants and higher animals, or higher organisms rather, and examples of that are those plant cells and animal cells. So they are the typical examples of eukaryotic cells. Now let's take example of plant cell. This is a plant cell structures, and let's talk about their structures, their features. So let's start with amyloplast. Amyloplast functions as starch storage. So, and now cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is a fluid found in every cells, and that's where all other organelles suspend inside the cell. And again, the vacuole. The function of vacuole is for osmoregulation, and inside vacuole there is an organelle called cell sap. Cell sap is the actual osmoregulator that is found inside colloidal vacuole. Alright, now the cell wall. So the cell wall of a plant cell is made up of cellulose. So we say cellulose cell wall. Now the cell membrane. Cell membrane is also called plasmalemma or plasma membrane, and the function is for cell-to-cell recognitions, and also it's permeable. It allows cells to interact with the environment. Another thing is ribosome. Ribosome is for protein synthesis. So, and as well, we have the Golgi apparatus, which regulates some reactions inside the cells. Now, the chloroplast. Chloroplast is for photosynthesis. Then the mitochondria is for site for oxidative respiration or aerobic respiration, where ATP is formed in the powerhouse. Then the peroxisome. Peroxisome serves the purpose of detoxification by oxidation reaction. The main function of a nucleus is that it houses genetic material. The DNAs are found inside the cell, or inside the nucleus rather, and it controls the metabolic activity of a cell. Then we have the nucleolus. which produces ribosome. And don't forget that ribosome produces protein. Then again, we have endoplasmic reticulum, which transports materials around the cell. And again, we have rough endoplasmic reticulum, which transports the proteins, and smooth endoplasmic reticulum, which transports the lipids and cholesterols. Here is the typical animal cells. So the difference between animal cells and plant cells is that animal cell doesn't have a cell wall. And again, the vacuole in animal cell is very small, or sometimes they don't actually have vacuole. And so again, they have centrioles, which help them in cell division, and microtubules as well, which also do the same thing. Alright, so those are the major differences between animal cells and plant cells. Here are the major differences between the plant cells and animal cells. So relate the differences and note those ones that are very unique among the two guys. Okay, the first thing is the chloroplast, ameloplast, and cell wall are the features of a plant cell, while the centrioles and the microtubules are the features of animal cells. And again, animal cell doesn't have cell wall, and again doesn't have a chloroplast. And here also are the major differences between the prokaryotic cells and the eukaryotic cells. Note that the eukaryotic cells are cells that have membrane-bound organelles, while the prokaryote lacks those organelles. So those are the differences between them. So note those structures and relate their differences. Virus belongs to organelle level of organization. Now, cell is the basic functional unit of every living organism. The smallest thing we have is the atom. So when we have a group of atoms, we have molecule, so macromolecules and all of that. Then we have organelle, then we have a cell. So now, a cell organized to give tissue. So when we have two or more cells performing similar functions, we say we have a tissue. And when we have two or more tissues performing same or similar functions, we say we have an organ. And we have organs come together to perform a similar functions, like we have organs involved in reproductions, respirations. Then we have a system. So, and when we have question of system, we have reproductive system, we have respiratory system, and digestive system. So they make up an organism. We have four major types of tissues in mammalian body. We have a connective tissue, a nervous tissue, epithelial tissue, and muscle tissue. So you can use ECMN as an acronyms to remember them. E means epithelial tissue, C means connective tissue, M means muscular tissue, and N means nervous tissue. Here are the various parts of the body where you can find these tissues. We have epithelial tissues that are found on the surface of body parts, and they are of 5 types. So based on their structures and their numbers of layers they form. When you have epithelial tissues that are in layers, we call them stratified. When they are not in layers, they are said to be simple. Then when they are flat, they are said to be squamous. When they are rectangular shape, they are said to be cuboidal. So it is like that. So one of them is the one that are found in respiratory tracts. So, and those ones are called pseudostratified selected columnar epithelial tissues. Then we have simple squamous, like those ones that are flat. Then we have simple cuboidal, we have simple columnar, and we also have stratified squamous. So then we also have muscle tissues, the muscular tissues, and the one that there are 3 types. So we have cardiac, that are the tissues that are found in the heart. So there are muscular tissues that are found in the heart. Then we have smooth muscular tissues that are found in internal organ, like the one in the GIT, all those ones in the small intestine and the stomach. Then we have skeletal muscles. So those are the muscles that are found attached to our bones and to our joints. So then we have nervous tissues. Nervous tissues are the tissues that are found in our nervous systems. So example of them are the ones that form the tissues that are found and made up of our brains and some other things like that. So then we have connective tissues. These are the most abundant type of tissues. So they are found in almost every part of our body. So they make up our blood, our cartilage, our bones, our connective tissues, cartilage, and adipose fat, etc. They are all connective tissues. So here are the features of epithelial tissues, and the major function of epithelial tissues are protection, secretion, absorption, sensation, and filtration. So they are very important, and they are found in the body surface, and they form linings for internal organs as well. So check this out and differentiate between their shapes. Here are the features of connective tissues. So they are the most abundant tissues and most widely distributed tissues. So, and they're made up of all those bones, limbs, blood, cartilage, fibrous tissues, etc. So they are found almost everywhere, and their major function is for support and protection. Here are the features of muscular tissues. So there are 3 types of muscular tissues based on their functions and where they are found. So the first thing is skeletal muscles. This one is a voluntary type, meaning that it can be controlled by your will and by your desires. So, and with these ones, their function is they are majorly found in the skeletal part of the body. So, and they help the contraction of the skeletal part of the body, like the withdrawing of the leg, the movement of the hands, the legs, and some other things like that. So the next one is smooth muscles. This one is found in internal organs, so like the uterus. So it helps the contraction of the uterus, the blood vessels, and all of that. So, and they are always involuntary, meaning that you cannot control them. So they are controlled automatically by the nervous system. So another thing is the cardiac muscles. So this one is found only in the heart, and it's also involuntary. So you cannot control how your heart muscles contract or retract. So they are also involuntary. They are only controlled by the nervous system, so you cannot control them based on your will and your wish. This is the nerve cells, so they don't make up the nervous tissues, and this is also called neurons. Nerve cells are also called neurons, and they conduct and transmit impulses in the nervous systems. They transport messages from the nervous system to the body and back to the, and they are supported by neuroglial cells. So neuroglial cells or glial cells, they support neurons in the nervous system.